Piero, thank you very much for joining us here at the studio. You're a farmer from Italy, but you're also a farmer who's trying new initiatives, a slightly new technique. You've been telling me about yogic farming, which I can imagine if you told many people about that in a cafe or a pub, they might think you'd been drinking too much. But tell me a bit about yogic farming and why you think it works.
Thank you. Yoga means connection, and so really it means what you do with your thinking possibilities. And you know, there are people like scientists like Emoto that have shown how water is sensible to whatever is exposed to. So if it's exposed to music, you can see if it's a good music or not a good music by the crystals of the water. And the same thing applies to thoughts. And Emoto has also shown that. So in a similar way, in yogic farming, we expose the seeds to an amount of positive thoughts for a few days before their seeds into the ground. And then during the whole process of the farming life of that plant, some more thinking is going into the seeds. And this has proven to be very successful. And there is actually a university in India that is doing a 5 years scientific study on that. And the results are really amazing.
If we can be sort of controversial here, I mean, when you look back at India is an interesting example because they obviously had huge food shortages, as I understand, in the sort of 50s, 60s, 70s, and they intensified their food process. And because of that, they are managing to feed more people. So are you suggesting that are all fertilizers, are all elements like putting nitrogen into the soil, are these bad? Are these? Are you suggesting a purely organic way, or is there a slightly different technique you're advocating?
Well, as a farmer, I'm definitely advocating for completely natural way of farming, organic, and I myself have been proven of the right of this system, not so only in terms of quality. And not only for the human beings, but also for the soil, for the earth, and for, in a way, we are all interconnected, but also in terms of economics. I have seen that when, before I got into farming myself, the way the farm was generating income was not successful without the subsidies of the European community. And now we could do without it, so that is a great sign. But anyways, I think the process is certainly different, and the yogic process includes a certain amount of consciousness of the people that are applying it, and so that has an extra added value. Whereas in this university I was mentioning before, they're doing a study with organic agriculture, organic plus yoga, so positive thinking, and the conventional agriculture, and they can sort of see in all cases the different results.
Okay, and you know, if we're pushing this theme, I mean, if you have two fields the same size, and one has conventional fertilizers and the other is yogic farming, can you produce more carrots or oranges or pears than the other field?
Actually, you can. It takes a process of a few years for the soil to regenerate itself, because we have been using up the soils, and so now they are like drug addict, you know, without the drug they cannot be functioning. So it takes a few years, but after a few years there is no difference within the other system. And of course you need a good farmer that knows what he's doing, because you have to maybe alternate the products or give of seed into the soil things that will give the nitrogen and the things that you give chemically in a natural way.
And farming, I imagine, it seems to me, such a hard job. You know, you always seem to be working up very early in the morning, late at night, always worrying because you are always dependent on nature, on factors, I guess, out of your control. How easy has it been to convince other farmers that this perhaps is a way to go? Because I imagine for many of them, they will see this as a risk. For you, it may be a risk that you think is worth taking, but for many farmers, it is a risk. So how can you convince them that this is a way to move forward?
I think the only way to convince is to show in practical terms how things are doing. But going back to your initial remark, I think farming has been seen in the last like 20 or 30 years with a sort of boom, economic boom, like not such a good thing to do, but it's really a big mistake. And I think with the crisis that the world is facing, people are going to be forced in a way to come back to the land because that's the source of food, and so it's a primary need. But also the kind of life, I mean, as a farmer you are free. You can stop when you want, you can sit under a tree and have your moment of relax. You can, it's true, maybe you go early in the morning because you don't want to be under the sun, but you're completely free to do whatever you want. If it's a bad weather, you can stay home and do your own thing. So it's such an amazing job, if you really see it, that there is no comparison with the stress that an office will create.